the first step was, for me at least, was that I noticed, and I think you're one of the very few people that I've seen talk about this, but it's that your emotional behavior, emotional instability can have a technical uh, route and also or a performance route. And I think most of my like my history with my creating issues was like, okay, it's an emotional issue. And then when I started to learn more about your work, I was like, okay, wait, but why was I second guessing? Was it because I'm a second guesser, or is it because I don't have a clear plan of what to do when I see this? And I realized that a lot of it, I kept just saying, I'm a slow thinker. And so I get flustered. But it wasn't a fluster issue. It was, I don't need to think if I can have a system that tells me what to do when I see this.
Mhm.
And then I got rid of that problem because I was like, when I see this, I will do this. And then I realized it wasn't an emotional thing for me. It was actually a clarity thing. And so I really love that you teach that. So can you talk a bit about how to differentiate between a technical flaw and a performance flaw?
So there are skills that you have to develop, right? I'm skilled enough to know how badly I am as badly skilled I am as a trader. So just as like I am with in poker, I mean, I will never spend enough time to become as skilled because I don't love it the way that you all do.
Hmm.
Right? I put my extra effort into golf. That's the thing that I still love to do and compete at a high level at. So the raw skills that you have to even understand viable opportunities, right? They're not to be taken for granted. Right? We're not talking about those who are like just copy trading, right? If you are actually becoming a trader, you have a raw skill set, knowledge base that is honed over really years, in addition to your ability to devise a strategy that like kind of aligns with who you are as a person, right? Kind of your own unique fingerprint as a human being, as a trader, right? You have that knowledge. So when there are weaknesses in that, which can sometimes be market based, right? The market has changed. What you've been doing is no longer working in the same way that it should. If you experience some feelings of fear, right, that feeling could actually be a legitimate indicator that there's just some misalignment
Hmm.
that is no longer valid. And so if you immediately go to no, that fear is psychologically based and personal, or well, then I think you're at risk of well, certainly of misdiagnosing the problem, but then at risk of like kind of continuing to trade as if nothing has gone wrong when really you need to kind of take a step back. How do you know that that's the case? Well, so there's the kind of the reactivity that comes from market-based data interacting with your strategy. And then there's the flaws, the biases, the illusions, the wishes that you are bringing into the market. If you don't know which is which at the start, I always say default to technical,
Right.
right? But that's why you have to kind of write out what's going on in the moment. Because if you recognize that, no, this fear that I'm experiencing is really like, now I'm hesitating on this entry because there's a desire to not lose this month, that maybe a month and a half of break even was fine, like you were able to handle that, but now it's just becoming a little bit frayed, and you're kind of projecting into the future of like, well, what if this happens for another 6 months? Now all of a sudden finances are going to get a little bit tighter, and your mind is kind of snowballing in that direction.
Hmm.
Like that's clearly a personal, emotional, performance-based issue, but you're not really going to know that until you start to kind of unpack it. So that would be kind of the more advanced version of this. The more basic version is like what happens in the first 6 to 18 months of being a trader, where there is a lot of systemization that kind of hasn't happened yet, right?
Right.
There's so much growth. There oftentimes isn't as much consolidation. So sometimes what will happen is, actually, maybe a better way of framing this, like, can you articulate the kind of the very basics of your strategy, within 30 seconds?
Right.
And if the answer is no, then any emotional issues that kind of emerge from your execution cannot be ruled out to be not a knowledge-based or a strategy-based error, but a weakness in your understanding of what that is, right? Of your system, of your strategy, of your knowledge. And it's really important to be able to consolidate that, right? You are like a market, right? There's expansion and consolidation. And that consolidation helps to solidify a base of knowledge, a strategy in very clear, direct, objective terms. And then that kind of provides the next launching point for you to grow and expand as a trader. People, traders go through this process all the time. The question is if like you're trying to just optimize things, and if you are, then I think going through those periods, and I would say like every trader by default, like every 3 months, this is a good task to do. Can you still continue to describe the very basics of your strategy like within 30 seconds? And if the answer is no, then it means that there's been some upgrading or evolving that needs to be, kind of reflected. Because again, sometimes those emotions that are like, anger is also one that comes out, right? Like you're frustrated because you feel like you can be getting more out of your trades,
right?
Or you're losing in spots where it's like something just doesn't feel right. But that doesn't have to mean that you hate losing or you hate making mistakes. It could mean that you legitimately recognize that there's opportunity here that you
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that makes sense.